Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, and we're going to get started with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. So let's go ahead and jump up to our ultra-high time frames. We did have both the quarterly and the monthly close yesterday afternoon. So we'll take a look and see what's going on up here. Right now, you can see a brand new bar here. We've got 3 months, so we've got what? We've got the rest of September, we've got October, we've got all of November for this to close. So really can't say anything about that today, but we can talk about the candle that officially closed yesterday afternoon there, and essentially really no indications of exhaustion up here as we've seen for quite a while. So things looking very strong on the quarterly, and then same exact story here on the monthly. And what I did was I went ahead and drew maybe an updated trend line here off the most recent two lows that we made back here from November of 2020 and then March of 2021. And that kind of brings the slope down just a very tiny bit here. As you can see, the original line has a little bit more of a increased slope there compared to what I drew on there, and it gives us just a little bit of wiggle room up top here. So I threw that on there this morning, figured it might be relevant. So we'll continue to watch these two here, see what happens on this current monthly candle as we go forward here. So the two ultra high time frames looking very strong, no signs of exhaustion, and then our weekly, same exact story, very strong, no signs of exhaustion. In fact, this could now be a lime colored box there. So let's go over to our daily. And remember, yesterday we were talking about the potential of that bearish indication off of the candle that closed on Monday. However, because of what happened going into yesterday's market, we said that there was a potential for this to maybe become a false signal, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So you can see that price has pushed up to this new high, but it's also pushed up to a new high on the RVI. So we're going to go ahead, get rid of that. We get rid of these because there is no bullish divergence there, or bearish divergence. So everything on the daily looks very strong, with no clear signs of exhaustion outside of maybe seeing this somewhat bearish looking candle from yesterday's market there. So if we just kind of review these high time frames here, all four of the high time frames look very strong with no signs of exhaustion. When we get down to our 4 hour here, we had a little bit of a bullish divergence there off the lows of yesterday's market, and got a decent push out from that level. Now this 12 quarter, or I believe we bounced exactly at 1250 there. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, but we did bounce there. We got a number of bullish indications that we talked about in the trade room yesterday when we came down to make this low right around, it looks like this bar closed at 7 a.m., but we did bounce a little bit before that. We got indications on a number of time frames of a bullish potential reversal, and talked about that as we closed out the trade room yesterday, about the potential for them to go ahead and push up and test the previous daily or the overnight high. And that was the question that we had kind of going into the close of our session yesterday, was it going to actually follow through? We had all the bullish signals down here off the low. The question was, were the bulls going to have enough strength to push through some of the key levels we talked about being resistance yesterday, which included 25, I believe 34.50, which was the previous daily high, and then the that overnight high. So it looks like they were able to do that going into Globex and through the overnight session, and now we're getting a little bit of exhaustion right now. In fact, a pretty bearish looking 4 hour candle there that closed at 3 a.m. But from a divergence perspective, all we really see here is the bullish divergence from the previous daily low or just above the previous daily low. And that's all we can say from the 4-hour perspective. When we jump down to our 60-minute, we do have an agreement, and this is what we saw yesterday going into that 7 a.m. hour, was the fact that we did have what looked to be a potential bullish divergence on the 60-minute, and then as we dialed down, you can see we came right into this 2750 area, which happens to be 50% of that whole leg from the previous daily high to the previous daily low. Found some resistance, but then the bulls recovered and continued pushing there. And in the overnight session here, off our overnight high, we do have a bearish divergence from the overnight high. There was a little bit of a bullish divergence here around 3:30 to 4 a.m., but it looks like we've gone ahead and pushed right through that now. There was a little bounce from 33 to 39 for about 6 points, and now we're starting to come down and go through that signal now. So 4-hour does not have that bearish indication off the overnight high, but the 60-minute is definitely showing a pretty clear bearish divergence there. Let's go down to our intermediate time frames and see what they have to say here on our, let's go to our 30-minute. And something that I just recognized yesterday, which is kind of just interesting to note here, is we had this leg here, pretty clear leg. We had this whole push up, right, and then came up to about 97, 98 here, and had this pullback, and then we bounced out of this low that we made going into August 27th. And so from this low here up to the high that we made on August 29th, so I guess that must have been going into Globex on Sunday, we had a pretty clear leg there, and then we have another clear leg here from the pullback there, the bounce up into the high that we made, essentially the low of Globex from the 29th to the high on August 30th, another leg. And if you look at the extensions from there, the 27 and the 61 both lined up essentially where we made our high yesterday. So just kind of an interesting observation there. Now looking at our divergences, we did have a nice bull divergence off the previous daily low. And right now, I'm not really seeing much of a bearish indication off the overnight high, which we did see, I believe it was just on the 60-minute. So we didn't see that on the 4-hour. We didn't see it on the daily. We didn't see it on the 30-minute. We only see it on the 60-minute. So I'm not going to give that a whole lot of weight this morning. But we do have preponderance of bullish indications off the previous daily low. So when we go back, we look at the 4-hour, we look at the 60-minute, we look at our 30-minute, and then down at our 10-minute here, and we have the bullish divergence there from the previous daily low. So there's a lot more bullish indications from that level than any type of bearish indication off of the overnight high, where we're finding a little bit of resistance right now. So I would expect this to be telling us that we're going to have a little bit more of a bullish bias coming into the morning. And if we do pull back, we have some key levels below us that make a lot of sense for the market to find some support at, including 50% of the previous day, which is just about where we had a lot of resistance in yesterday's market, and then in the Globex session here, or the Globex session last night, and then eventually we broke through, have not come back to test that level. There are a number of other levels that we have below us as well, so we'll go ahead and dial down to our short time frames coming into the open here and see if we can get some decent trades off. Again, the idea this morning is we do have a little bit more of bullish signals than we do any type of bearish signals, so we would expect there to be a bullish push this morning. Of course, we're going to want to look for longs off of some of the key levels below us, and I think that's where it'll leave us here for our morning analysis.